On our morning show today from WRCO, we have a first-time visitor to our studio, and that would be Jane Thompson Schmidt, who is a local author. And good to see you. Good to meet you, Jane.
Good to meet you.
Nice to have you in the studio here. You contacted me, and you were talking about some books, and I thought, man, I've not heard of Finnegan before, but I've learned about Finnegan, and I think our listeners are going to enjoy hearing about Finnegan. So tell us who that is.
Well, Finnegan is my dog. He is now 10 years old. He is a little rat terrier mix that I adopted, and he's just a character, and so he was perfect for children's books. And when I started writing these books, I started going to schools and taking Finnegan along, and Finnegan was so popular, Phil, that the kids didn't want to hear anything I had to say. They just wanted to play with Finnegan. So we had to learn to bring Finnegan at the end. to have
you were
kids.
upstaged.
Right. They had to listen to me first to get to Finnegan, So it was fun. He's a good dog.
That's wonderful. Well, let's tell us a little about yourself here, and how long have you been writing books?
Well, I started writing when I moved to this area in 2000 during the millennium, and I started writing probably shortly after that because I started writing home. Long story short, I ended up living in a cabin off-grid on Paz Road in Westby, Wisconsin, and that was very different than my life. I was in the fitness field for many, many years before moving here, and I didn't have any communication. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have a TV. I didn't have a computer to talk to my family. So I started writing letters home, and that, I think, is how it began. And then also, too, I was the only English woman on Paz Road. It was all Amish, and I think I really had to go inside a lot because I moved here not knowing anybody, and I think most people come to this area, and they know somebody, they have a partner, or they have family. And so for me, I didn't open my mouth all day long. I would wait for the mailman to come, and I would stand there and just wait so that I could say, hi, and before I could even get anything out, he'd go, here's your mail, Jane, and he'd take off, But I think that's really when I started writing and started sharing stories, because there was lots of stories about the Amish and stuff too, living that way.
Right. What about children's books, though? I mean, were you inspired? Was there a book when you were a kid growing up?
Yes, there was. There was and not Schultz, because Peanuts. It was called Peanut and not Schultz. Everybody thinks it's going to be Peanuts as in Snoopy.
Right.
But it was a book about this little tiny dog that would fit into a teacup. And I remembered getting it at the bookmobile.
Oh,
I
sure.
would go to the bookmobile, that turquoise, bullet-looking bookmobile. And
I did that.
Did you?
Oh, sure.
Were you able to get up on that stool and get in there? It was hard, that first step was tough when when you were little. But I brought that book home and loved that book. And then there's other children's books that I think were just great. Another one was called Snow. Snow, just look at the snow. Will you come out and play in the snow? And I can almost recite the whole thing. So I think that's just, part of my nature. I like that. And Finnegan just kind of lent himself to children's books. And it started, he was so little, Phil. He was probably only 4 months old, and I started training him. I backpack, and so I started training him to take him on a backpacking trip. And he was just a tiny little fellow. I'm holding up the picture to show Phil, and it's Finnegan with his backpack on, and his backpack almost looks bigger than him, but his ears are bigger than the backpack. But anyway, I trained him for this trip, and we went to the Superior Hiking Trail. And we did the Superior Hiking Trail from Two Harbors to Judge Mangy. We were out there for 3 weeks, and he did really well, and we had such a good time. And that kind of led to telling about it in a book, because I thought, if I can inspire kids to get outside, that would maybe be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. So, was he in your backpack, or he was running along with his own backpack?
That's his own backpack.
Sure.
He has his own backpack. And before the Superior Hiking Trail, it's not on the water. People sometimes think it runs along Lake Superior, but it's up on top. And there's so many creeks and bridges and lakes and stuff. So my partner and I, we really had to train him to go in water because he was, it wasn't natural for him. It's not like he's a black lab. He's this tiny, just so you know, folks, he weighs like 13 pounds. That's very little.
What type of dog is he?
He's a rat terrier mix.
Mm-hmm.
He's a rat terrier.
He looks like, we had a dog named Squirt for about 15 years, and he looks like Squirt.
I love that name, Squirt. That's great. Yeah, it's Finnegan. He just, he's got that, I don't know if you can see, he's got like one eye open and one eye closed. He kind of squints, and he's just got a lot of character. He was the smallest dog I ran into in 3 weeks on the trail.
Okay. But when you saw this dog, you're like, he'd be a great inspiration for a book, right?
Well, no, I just thought that I wanted him. I just like fell in love with him immediately, and then everything just came afterwards. I knew that I'd probably take him with me backpacking because I love to backpack, and it would be nice. It was nice to have company. Normally I went by myself, and so this was nice, to take him with.
Encouraging kids to read, that's such a great thing, and kids love animals. They love dogs, so you've got a good thing going on, I think.
Yeah, I think so. His first book is called Finnegan's Superior Adventure, and it's all about going on that trip. But then his next one, Finnegan's Springtime Guide, also gets kids outside, Phil, because it's asking kids to find a Canada goose, and it's telling them about a Canada goose and skunk cabbage and marsh marigolds and turtles, and having kids find garter snakes and bluebells. And then there's field notes, so that the kids can write down the date they saw it, the subject, and their observations. And I'm just thinking, like, even about the skunk cabbage. It says the skunk cabbage has purplish flowers that look like someone splattered them with yellow paint. After blooming in early spring, they grow taller and sprout bright green leaves. So it tells a little bit about each thing, and that also, of course, gets them outside. And I think you're right. The reading and outdoors and all that, it's got to be healthy for kids, right?
Being aware of around you, and it's not a video game. It's not digital, right?
No, that's perfect. I don't think of that, but you're absolutely correct. Get them away from the TV set. So
I'm curious, who did the pictures for Finnegan?
Me. I love photography, so every picture in all these books except for one, vultures. My partner's brother took the picture of vultures because I just never did get a clear picture of them. And we talk about finding vultures in spring because that usually means springtime. But the third book is Finnegan's Island Adventure. Have you ever been on Washington Island?
Yes, I have. Uh-huh.
That's what this is about.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is about Washington Island, and so and Rock Island. But here he's on Stonehouse Beach, and here he's going over in the ferry, and the whole story. You see, he's wearing his life jacket, Phil.
Oh, sure.
He's got an orange life jacket on, folks. And Finnegan, when he found out he was going to Washington Island, he thought he'd have to swim. So he really practiced his swimming, and then when he found out he got on the ferry, which is, part of this whole story, he was quite surprised and happy, I'll tell you.
Sure. I mean, all dogs can swim, but he's got little bitty legs.
He's tiny. This is his big brother or big sister is Tay-Tay, and she's the one who tells him in this book that he has to swim, that, you're going to an island, you have to swim. And one thing fun about this book, I think anyway, is that there's all of them have something in them like this, but in this one there's discussion questions, and so it asks, what is the definition of an island? name one difference between Washington Island and Rock Island. And of course, Rock Island doesn't have any cars, right? And name two things that exercise is good for. So, it goes through that in the book, but then hopefully the parents or the teachers have something to talk to the kids about.
Have teachers used this kind of as a study guide for different things?
I'm not sure about a study guide, but I have gone into numerous schools, and I must say that was all pre-COVID, Phil, that I was really going into schools a lot, and we would put the pictures up on the screen. And for instance, for Finnegan's Superior Adventure, I would come in with my backpack on, and then I would take out the gear to show the kids. I'd be like, no, what do you think this is? And it'd be about the size. I'm holding up my fingers here, about the size of a deck of cards. And the kids would guess all sorts of things. And I would open it up, and it was my stove. And they were just fascinated, just fascinated. And then taking out the little one-person tent and showing them, how I would get in there with Finnegan. And I think that, it really sparked their imagination. And a lot of the kids, wanted to get outside, and that was kind of the whole purpose. So
maybe going home and encouraging their folks to take them camping or something? Sure.
Yes, I think so. I hope so.
Yeah. So when you're, in the pop tent with Finnegan and things like that, do you get ideas for books, or what do you do to pass the time?
Well, because of course it pours sometimes and you're stuck in this tiny little tent. But I can tell you one story. I was in Judge Mangy Park, and it was about 2 a.m. and Finnegan, a little dog like Finnegan, a rat terrier, and for anybody listening, I bet you can understand this, they like to burrow in. So he would get into the bottom of my sleeping bag, and that little, at the time he was about 10 pounds, and he was like a brick. I mean, you could not move him. That's where he would be, and it was a little uncomfortable in a little tiny tent. And one night he must have overheated in there, and of course started choking and then threw up. And it was, I'm in the middle of nowhere by myself. So I wasn't thinking about other books. I was thinking like, oh God, where's my headlamp? And got my headlamp on and cleaned out the sleeping bag. And he was fine. He just got overheated.
Yeah.
And then we started hiking. So it probably, by the time we got on the path, it was about 3 a.m. There was not a full moon or anything. And, I have poles. I call them sticks, but trekking poles. And then he has his little backpack. And we just figured, like, okay, there's no sleep tonight. And we just kept going. But I do think, like, for myself, I love hiking. And that was something, I would take women out on backpacking trips, midlife and older, for Turtle Adventures, this business that I was running. And I do think that is the time where I do reflect and think about books and think about stories that I want to share or that I want to tell. So,
what is the latest Finnegan book?
Okay. Well, the latest Finnegan book is not as fun, probably, Phil, because it's called Finnegan is Feeling Blue.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Finnegan's Feeling Blue, and I'm holding up the book cover, and doesn't he look sad,
He must have burrowed and got sick again or something.
Yeah, he looks so sad. And the book is really really dear to my heart because in 2024, so this last year, my granddaughter was 22 years old and was killed in a car accident.
Oh.
And grief is really challenging. And I know, like in Kubler, Kubler-Ross, that she talks about the 5 different stages of grief, but they're really not linear, and they kind of come and go and stuff. And I was just plain depressed and truly sad for my daughter and her husband. And at the same time, my partner had experienced a heart attack, and the person who helps me, Michael, was also in the hospital at the same time my partner was, and he did die. And so I had this tremendous grief and nowhere to put it or not, I mean, like I felt like I couldn't move. I would sit on my back deck and I would see my animals. I have a little farmette with animals, and I just felt like frozen or something. So this book started coming to me. I started thinking about Michael. Michael was a really good man, and he was a big man. And when he would pull up in his truck, I have 3 dogs. They would, not just Finnegan, they would just go crazy. And he'd get out of the car in this booming voice, and he'd be like, Finnegan! And Finnegan would just be wiggling his tail and just going nuts. And so I guess what I'm trying to say, Phil, is he was a large part of our lives. Like, we really enjoyed him. And so his death, brought on a lot of grief. And then, of course, my granddaughter's was even more. So this book, I'm just going to read the inscription in here. It is my sincere hope that by learning about grief and feeling blue, that children will feel less frightened by these emotions. And so I put the book together with those thoughts, and it tells a story about Finnegan and how he just misses his friend Michael so much that he doesn't want to eat, he doesn't want to play. He gets angry. He lashes out at Tay-Tay, his sister, and then he has another brother called Reuben, who's another mutt, a dog, and they don't understand. They want Finnegan to keep playing, and they don't understand. And it just kind of gets worse until Finnegan starts to understand that that's part of grief, and that's what feeling sad is about. And then Grandma Riley is the parent to Finnegan in the book, and Grandma Riley is me. And so I'm just going to share with you, why would you be Grandma Riley when you just introduced me as Jane? I have 2 grandchildren, Helena and Ethan, and when they were little, they had all their grandparents, and they could never distinguish, which one was which, because they were little kids. And I had a yellow lab named Riley, so I became Grandma Riley. And then when Riley died, my other dog's name was Moses, and I went, oh no, you're not going to call me Grandma Moses. We're going to stay. We're going to stay with Grandma Riley. So Grandma Riley is the character always in the book. So Grandma Riley explains grief to Finnegan, and then it's a story about that, wow, about loss, and really grief is love, right? It's when you love somebody, you miss them, and it talks in this book. It talks about questions here too, like, have you ever felt blue? And if so, how did it feel? So trying to get kids to talk about it. And besides grieving the death of a friend or family member, what else can make you feel blue? And in this book, we talk about the loss of a pet. For some of us, that's the first.
Sure. They're like family.
Oh, gosh. Mm-hmm. I mean, have you had a?
Sure.
Yeah.
Squirt.
Oh, Squirt, of course. Mm-hmm. Of course. And it hurts. I mean, it really hurts.
Yeah, you miss them.
So there's grief with pets, but then, for us, for older people, there's grief if there's a divorce, or even retirement, or a loss of a job, or a cancer diagnosis. You feel that grief. So it gets the kids, thinking and talking, and parents, I should say adults love this book too. But then it also gives suggestions for when you're feeling blue. And the first thing is talk. And this is what you do every morning with people. You talk, but talk to your family, friends, a school teacher, or a counselor. Walk. Sit less and move more. Get outside. This may be hard to do when you're feeling blue. Ask a trusted friend to go with you. Spend quiet time. You can maybe draw, write, pray, paint, or read. Watch for little glimmers of joy and beauty, and keep a list of things you're grateful for. So those are Finnegan's suggestions. And then he has a page where kids can write their gratitude list, like things that they're grateful for, and then their glimmer list. And we explain in the book what glimmers are, but it's like the opposite of a trigger. And we all know what triggers are, things that just get us and they don't feel right and it kind of hurts, But a glimmer is something, well, like for me, when I came into the station today, I noticed that you had these colored lights up.
Yes.
and I'm just like, oh, those are so cool. But, it's just something that makes you smile. Or just the other day, I came across 3 eagles, 2 were juveniles, and they were on a deer. And I just stopped to watch because they're just so magnificent and beautiful. So those are glimmers, things that are the opposite of a trigger. They make you feel good. And so Finnegan encourages the kids to look for that.
That's awesome. And that's a great guide for not only maybe children that are feeling grief, but as you mentioned, adults, I
think so.
Yeah.
I think so. This, we're what, 4 weeks, not even out on Christmas, and this can be a really hard time for folks. I know for me with, my granddaughter's death, it's huge because things have changed. Things have really changed. But then just the worry about my daughter and her husband, from everything I've read and learned, that's the greatest grief there is. We're not meant to lose our children first, right?
Right.
So, and I'm not taking away from any other grief, but it is a hard one,
Yeah.
Very, very hard.
No doubt.
So.
Jane Schmidt is our guest on the morning show. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Finnegan books, where you can get them, and we might even get her to read a little bit if we twist her arm a little bit here when the morning show continues. Jane Schmidt is our guest on WRCO Radio, local author. We're talking about the Finnegan books and some other books. She's written how many? 4 Finnegan books?
There's 4 Finnegan books, and the 5th one is going to hopefully be called Finnegan and His Amigo, and it would be a little bit of basic Spanish with Finnegan, because I think that would just be so great for kids to learn, words like casa for house, or amigo, or gracias, or whatever. So that will be his next one.
What does Finnegan's voice sound like? Any idea?
I think it sounds like kind of old.
Oh.
Yeah, because I think Finnegan is like kind of like an old man in this young body, although now he is aging.
Sure.
So, so he is aging now, so I shouldn't even say that. But,
Where can people get your books, Jane?
Well, they can, the Viroqua Food Co-op always has them stocked, and that's not too far from here. And then also they can get them online. I have a wonderful website called janesfitnesschoices.com, and there's a store in there with all the books and cards. And then the adult books on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, good way to get them. So, yeah, you have written books other than children's books.
Yes.
How many of those have you?
Two. The first one is called Not a Perfect Fit. And that title, well, I'm not a perfect fit, Phil. It's like I have so many blunders. I mispronounce words a lot. And I do make mistakes. Like I moved here from Hales Corners, which was a suburb, and then I moved to the country. And that kind of caused some really interesting problems. And one of them, one of the things that I could tell you, and these are stories in this book, I was dating a gentleman, and I was living in this cabin off-grid on Paz Road in Westby, Wisconsin, and I would use every opportunity I could to take a shower or a bath at somebody's place because I didn't have running water. And he was a farmer, and so I went over to his house, and he was out, and I used his shower, and I got out of the shower, and I was toweling off, and the phone rang, and we'd only been dating 2 months, and it's do you answer the phone or don't you? You're a woman at a man's house type thing. And I thought, well, I better answer it. So I answered it, and the gentleman asked where he was. They said, where is he? And I said, without even hesitating, I said, well, he's out on his concubine. And
whoops.
The gentleman just paused and didn't say anything. And that was pretty much the end of it. Well, about 2 days later, he came in and we did our thing, and I told him his friend called. About 2 days later, he came over and he just said, what did you tell John when he called? And I said, I told him you were out on your concubine. And he just about died, and he had a dictionary and he showed me what a concubine was.
What the difference was.
Right. And, and to this day, like, I swear I'll go into Nelson's in Viroqua there, and, they'll all be talking and they see me, and I swear they all start laughing because that story has circulated. It just circulated all over, but I've now learned the difference.
Oh, well, that's good.
The difference between combining and concubining.
Sure. Well, you were a girl that did not grow up in the country as well, right?
No, I didn't. The other thing too, when I first came here, I was helping out a farmer and that had alpacas, and I went around the yard and I meticulously weeded for him, and later found out that they were poppies coming up. And oh boy, I guess that he had worked years on growing these poppies, and I had pulled every single one of them out. I just thought they looked like weeds when they were coming up. So there were lots of mistakes made and a lot of lessons learned.
Sure.
So,
would you read for us a little bit?
I will. I think I'm going to choose a story called Making Hay at Midnight. Okay? All right. And this, too, I just want to mention, it's from Not a Perfect Fit, and they are stories from Jane's World, a little spoof off of Wayne's World. Making Hay at Midnight. Last night, I was exhausted after spending the day getting ready for a much-needed vacation, so I went to bed early. After a restless couple of hours, a strange noise woke me up around 11 p.m. I do not like noise, especially late at night. As I listened, I could hardly believe my ears. A tractor on the ridge. Who would be driving their tractor around close to midnight? I had moved to the country for peace and quiet, and now someone was out making hay in the middle of the night. The noise went on, and at 2 a.m., I dragged my tired body out of bed. I went to the open window and was shocked to discover that I could actually hear the radio in the guy's tractor. But I live in a vale. I refuse to say ditch, although it's probably more accurate. Plus, vale is a little more poetic. And when the wind is just right, noise travels. The sound seemed to be coming from the top of the ridge. I understood that farmers are excited about their third crop of hay, thanks to all the rain we'd been getting. But what I had a hard time understanding was why the farmer was operating at such a crazy hour. Why could he not do this in the daytime? I couldn't see the tractor, but every time it came closer to my home, I could hear that radio. When he moved away again, I heard only the distant and irritating hum of the tractor's motor. It was nerve-wracking. I decided to stay up and finish cleaning and packing for my trip. I could always sleep later. After all, it was vacation time. On went the lights. Down the stairs I came. My anxious border collie was waiting for me at the door. I swear those dogs never sleep. So I opened the door to let him out. Weird. They seemed to be haying right next door. The tractor's motor and radio sounded so close. I stepped off the porch to investigate, and oh my gosh, it was in my driveway. It was not a tractor on the ridge. It was not somebody out making hay. It was my car. It was in my driveway where I had left it last evening, still running. This, I swear to you, was a first. The hood of the car was hot to my touch, but amazingly, there was still gas in the tank. I had gone into the house at 7 p.m. and had obviously forgot to turn the car off. The noises I had been hearing were the fan kicking in to cool off the car, and the radio, which I'd also left on, could only be heard when the fan kicked off. After turning off the car, I walked slowly back into the house, my border collie close at my heels, thinking, thank goodness today is the start of my vacation. I clearly needed one.
So that car sat there and ran for over 24 hours?
Oh, my gosh. Yes. And and when the fan was on, I didn't hear that radio, but then I would hear the radio and I'm upstairs in my attic bedroom and it was just so irritating, like, why would he be out there making hay? But, and when I told my mom the story, now my mom has since passed, but when I told my mom the story, she said, and that's the reason why you're not married, Janie, because a husband would have killed you for that. Which I thought was she probably had a point. She probably had a point, but those were the things.
Oh, sure.
Those were the things that I would do or that would happen.
Someone might accuse it of being ditzy. I don't know.
Right, right. Yeah, I suppose and I'm sure I've been called. And in fact, when you say that, I think so. Yesterday, it turns out my friend Christina was on the radio with you.
Oh, sure. Christina.
Yeah.
Jane's.
Yes.
Wednesday, yes.
Yeah, on Wednesday, okay. And when I found out that then I was going to be on your show, I thought to myself, and she was talking about something so important, which, with public schools, that was wonderful. And then I come in and I'm just, all over with stories. But
we need a little relief, though, sometimes from the seriousness,
okay.
right?
Yeah, because I listened to that and I thought it was great. Just, yeah. So thank you. That was good. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess the one thing I didn't say is that I'm a columnist and have been a columnist for the Crawford Independent and Scout paper. And I'm going on, I think, 23 years of writing a weekly column. So, and I remember the editor, Charlie, asking me, saying, do you think you can write would you have enough material? And I thought, you don't know my life. It's like the material is endless and not always funny, but I seem to have one of those life. I live with a pig named Louisa, who just yesterday morning pushed her way into the basement. I have an outside basement. You have to come around the house. And, of course, there's grain in there, duck feed. There are probably about 30 pumpkins, 30 butternut squash, a whole tub of apples, and, of course, cracked corn. And once she got in there, she didn't want to get out. You try making a pig do something you don't want it to do.
Oh, Louisa thought she was in heaven.
She was in pig heaven, but honest to God, if she would have stayed in there, she would have been in real heaven. She would have bloated and died, So I was using a shield from the garbage can, like going back, because of course she was like, she's a good girl. But not when you're trying to take food away from her. That was a no-no. So there's always something.
That could be another story in one of your books, it sounds like.
Well, I already wrote about it now. I wrote about it this morning because it was, it was kind of funny. And, we do need some comic relief, too.
We do. It sounds like you're influenced by animals a lot of times, though.
Oh, gosh.
Some of the lives they lead.
Oh, my goodness. So Hans and Vincent are two goats. And Hans and, so it's Vincent Van Goat.
I like it.
Vincent Van Goat and Hans. And Hans likes to tell stories, and Vincent Van Goat likes to explore and get on everything. So, like, he'll be on top of the roof and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, long story short, they were being goats, I guess, and Hans got his hoof caught in the fence and then was dangling down, and oh my God, I just freaked out and I couldn't get his foot out, and he was, that bah noise, and so I called 911. Oh God! And then meanwhile, and they know me, which is a whole nother story. Not for anything bad, Phil, but,
right.
Because of animals, right.
Another story that'll go around.
Right, exactly. Right. It's all on the bathroom doors, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, so the sheriff came, and then a friend came from the ridge over and had a pliers and, or a wire cutter, and we had to cut the wire out from the, so it's constant with the animals. But I have 2 donkeys, Diego and Carlos, that not too long ago, the dogs were barking and barking and barking, and I thought coyote or deer or something. But I opened up the door, and Diego was standing right in my front yard. He got out of the pasture. The fence had a short, and just decided to come up to the front door. I guess he wanted to come in, with everybody else. And at first I just thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to get him back in? But like a dog, he just, they trust you because you're their caretaker, so he just followed me right back in, and like, okay, now this is where I belong. Thank you, Mom. But, there's always something odd. There's ducks and geese and dogs and cats and goats and a pig and snails and parakeets and all sorts of fun things there. So
I can relate. Having grown up on the farm, the animals were a big part of the life, and you have a small farm, so they all have names, and and I've always thought maybe someday that would make a good children's book. Some of my experiences. Do you think that there are books we all have maybe the ability to write a book, or we should write a book?
Yes, I think you should write a book, Phil. Yes, because those stories. Here's the other thing too. I hopefully I'm bringing up some of these stories and you're thinking of them, and that's kind of the point, right, of what I do in sharing them, especially in the adult books, is so that people remember that. But yes, I encourage everybody to write them down, because here's what happens once you start writing them down. I think you remember even more, and isn't that nice? Because as we age, we start to forget things. And then we have to remember, all the things we do remember. And I do that all the time, because I do get forgetful and I forget things. I'm 67 going on 68. And that happens, and then I think of my stories, and the more I write them down and the more I share them, the more I tell them, the more I remember, and that would be like it for you, you could have those stories for your kids. So yes, I think anybody can write. Just grab a sheet of paper and start.
That'll be a goal for the weekend to get started, maybe.
Good.
But I know fitness is a big part of your life, but keeping the brain sharp, that's another way to keep the mind sharp, isn't it?
Yes. We could probably have a whole conversation on that, on dementia, Alzheimer's. So just quickly, my sister was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 60. My dad died at 53 with a brain aneurysm, and then my sister was diagnosed at 62 and died in a memory care home at 67 of Alzheimer's. That's pretty young. And now my brother is 70, and he is in memory care too with Alzheimer's. And so when people learn this, they inevitably, I don't think they mean to be mean or anything, but they will say oh my God, Jane, meaning for me, because it's a lot of history, a lot of genetic history right there. But I think we have to live. We just have to keep living until we can't. And I do forget things, but I'll bet you any money you do too. And
once in a while.
Right. Yeah. You kind of stumble across a name or, something.
Sure.
But think of all we remember. So I started in fitness when I was only 19 years old. And it started with my brother, actually. He would drag me to this club called Southridge Racquetball Club to play racquetball. And then I would see the classes. They were teaching classes, and that interested me. And then I started going to school at UW Milwaukee in Phi Ed, because they really didn't have anything recreational at that time. And what happened was I became more and more interested in adult fitness. And so I worked at the Wisconsin Athletic Club for 15 years and the YMCA for 10 years. I was the director of their fitness program. And then at the other club, the last club, I became the operations manager. Well, when that career, so that was 15 that was 25 years. And then when I moved to this area, I thought, I'm done with that. I'm very active. I was always playing racquetball or teaching exercise classes. And then, of course, hiking. And I thought, now I'm just going to come to the country and slow down. But I found myself right back in it. just right back in it because I love it so much. And I think that the benefits of regular exercise are so important. I mean, I have a client in my class who is 100 years old, Lily Targerson. She lived in Viroqua for 50 years, recently moved to Oklahoma to be closer to her family. She is 100. But after COVID, we were outside for a long time. We moved our classes outside, if you can believe that. We would be at the pavilion by the VFW post in Viroqua. And now I'm online, which I just never wanted to do. I just did not want to do that. And I had to learn. And now I love it because we have people from all over taking classes with their family members. So, my girlfriend right now is in Tucson and she's taking class. Lily's in Oklahoma. She's taking class. And it is social because we talk before class and then we have speakers. We just had a gal named Arwen on who talked to us about the importance of vitamin D. We've, had all different people come in and talk to us after class, sometimes before class. But the biggest thing is that we do functional fitness. So we work on, sitting down and standing up, and we work on, reaching to that top shelf or carrying stuff, our balance and our core and man, I don't want to bore you. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And I really believe in it. And the other thing that I really believe in is not just for our muscles, because we lose muscle as we age, but for our minds, And then I, think of my sister and my brother and my dad and stuff. And I think it really helps our brains. And so here's my claim to fame. I don't have many claim to fames, but if I have one, it would be that anybody in my classes, and I'm thinking of Ellen. She's been in my classes, I think the longest, 20 some years she's been taking my classes. I have never done the same class twice. So I always do something different. So we're doing movement patterns that are different. We're doing exercises in different forms or in different ways. And I think that just helps our brain.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure meeting you today. And you're just, I admire your energy and your and what you've done. The books, Finnegan Books, I could see that as a wonderful gift this holiday season too.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you so much. This was really fun.
It was fun. Nice.
Sorry if I talked too much.
No, I'm intrigued by Finnegan. I might be buying those for my grandkids.
Wonderful.
Great. And again, people can find those online. You say the Viroqua Food Co-op has
and the
books?
Viroqua Food Co-op or online on Amazon or janesfitnesschoices.com, my website.
Wonderful. Well, great. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much.
We'll have you
for
back
having me.
when Finnegan has another adventure, maybe.
Okay, thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Author Jane Schmidt joining us on The Morning Show.